Can you sing a little tune of that song?
Olvidarte de un amor que no se va a acabar, de estar con todo el mundo, na 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 na.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 58 of the Iga and Carlos Tennis Show. This is the RG draw preview. So we're going to talk about both the men's and women's singles in depth. We do have the qualifiers finished as well. So kind of perfect time to do this before play gets underway in less than 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I barely know the draw. I know Vansh has, had a little more time to analyze it. I will be reacting to it sometimes in real time. I saw this one crazy men's section that everybody's talking about, and there I already have my opinion because that's the one I looked at. I mean, basically, it was Vansh sending this to a group chat and just asking, who the hell is even making the quarters? But I think we're gonna start from the women's, and there I only have just like a few things in mind that like Świątek is in the Sabalenka half. Like I know these very basic things, but I'm definitely excited to finally get a bit of a deeper dive into it.
All right, so let's get started with the women's section because, as you mentioned, the main story for me was going to be where is Iga landing and her being the 5th seed. I mean, there was a chance we could even have her and Sabalenka in the quarters. That's not the case. That's a potential semifinal, and she does have Jasmine Paolini in her quarter, and Sabalenka has Zheng, but we'll get through that. I think it's a pretty top-heavy draw in terms of the women. Like you look at the bottom and you're kind of like, okay, I think Coco is the favorite to get to the final. But, there are still a lot of interesting matchups and possibilities. So I guess you want to just start with the first section, or do you have any kind of other bigger picture takeaways?
No, I mean, I don't have any big picture stuff yet, I guess. Although, actually, what we see on the screen right now, so what I included in the title, so does Świątek draw matter? This is a reference to a tweet that I saw from Tom Jones, I think, and I really like the take that he mentioned a few players who are like potential problems on Iga's route, not necessarily like Sabalenka, but more so Kostyuk, Paolini. I think Kostyuk was supposed to be like round 3, Paolini quarters. Yeah. And basically what he was trying to say is that it kind of doesn't matter who she plays in these first few rounds, because, if she's just panicking on the court, she might lose to just, whoever round 2, round 3. But if she's also like on top form, I mean, there's no reason why she wouldn't be able to beat Sabalenka, Gauff, Andreeva, and the likes. And I really like that take. I mean, I do think it's a lot, like maybe not necessarily fully, because we have Gauff so strong right now, Andreeva much stronger than last year, Sabalenka, you could argue, much stronger than last year. So, I mean, it's not really that simple. But I do think that Iga's state of mind is kind of the most important thing here. And maybe that's why I wasn't looking out for her draw as much, because I just don't think it's going to necessarily change all that much for me, whether Sabalenka is going to be the quarters or in the semis. Of course, it might, in the sense that, if it's in the semis, she might not get there or something like that. But yeah, I do think Iga can like easily win this event, basically, because she suddenly starts playing like herself again, or can easily lose in the opening round. And I wasn't, opening round, maybe not. But like, yeah, the draw for me was not really going to matter that much, I suppose. But I also haven't seen it. Like, I don't even know who she's playing in the opening round. So that's why just a second ago, I was hesitating when I said that.
That's a good big picture takeaway from Tom. And I would second that, because I think, when you see her panicking on the court quite a lot, there are more players who can beat that version of Iga this year. But then, when she's just so clear-headed, and when she plays like she basically has every other event and every other clay season, then you almost feel like, okay, it doesn't really, I mean, it matters to a certain extent because the other players are improving, but she is still the woman to beat on this surface. And so she could very well just pick up the pieces if she starts just playing like her normal level again. So, but if we if we start with the first section, I mean, this is the Sabalenka quarter and 8th, I guess. And you have Anisimova as the 16th seed. I mean, Anisimova is at a career high ranking right now and everything, and she obviously has the 1000 title. But, since Charleston, hasn't been in great form, but she could obviously turn it on here. And you've got like Leila Fernandez, Clara Towson. I mean, personally, I'm kind of looking at Danielle Collins round 3 as still like, not a matchup that I would expect Sabalenka to lose, but still like a big name, I guess, who's in, decent form this week in Strasbourg, making the semis. But really what stands out is the Towson Anisimova potential round 3 matchup, and then Sabalenka playing the winner of that, because we've seen Anisimova, actually both players, they have this ability to turn Sabalenka's power back on her, and they have some success in that matchup. So curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, Towson already beat her this year. Also, Australia was quite close. I think Anisimova has this pretty famous head-to-head against Arina as well. Yeah, I'm not really sure what Amanda has been doing recently. I guess the 1-5, right? She even played the 1-5 last week or something like that. So yeah, picking up some rhythm, I suppose. Yeah, Towson and Anisimova, I think seeing this, it's definitely somewhat dangerous to Sabalenka. Like there's just a pool of players, I guess, that in the fourth round I think would be very easy for her, and these two, no, not so much. I don't know how clay actually impacts that. I mean, in terms of Anisimova, probably not at all. Maybe Towson will be easier to handle for Arena. I don't know. And yeah, Collins is probably the one I would be afraid of here if I was Arena. Just a little bit, a big match player, somebody who definitely comes up with like extra motivation for these encounters. Last year had some good battles as well against Arena. So yeah, these three are kind of like the biggest obstacles for sure. I would assume that Sabalenka just cruises through the first two rounds. And even if there are like some, issues along the way, she probably has enough time to figure things out. Some maybe would say Leila Fernandez as well. I mean, a former semi-finalist of this event. Why not? Semi-finalist, am I right? I think I mean
Quarters, yeah, quarters
quarters.
in 22.
Quarters. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, quarterfinalist. These years when Iga won like 22, 23, they always tend to be a bit blurry for me because it was just like so much about Iga that, the other parts of the draw just kind of didn't matter. It was a little different last time, I suppose. But yeah, definitely I think somebody will also some people will also look at her. I guess hasn't been in great form. Just a different play style, of course, to guys like Collins, Towson, and Isimova. I don't think it's super easy for Arena. It's not really a section that I'm looking at and just thinking, okay, yeah, she's in the quarters already.
Yeah, and that personally, when I looked at this, I thought, okay, first two rounds easy, but then third, fourth round could be challenging, and it's not just okay, just pencil her to the quarters without dropping a set. I think there could be some adversity, particularly in the last two rounds before the quarters. I was also looking at Olga Danilovic just because she made the fourth round last year, and she had those wins over Collins and Kostyuk back to back. So maybe that's a potential. She could get through and sneak to the third round. That would be interesting if that happens. She
Yeah, I
does
love
like
her game.
play.
What was the match that she lost recently? She kind of disappointed me in something. Uh, Zheng in Rome, but I guess
Yeah,
Kinven did obviously go on to like almost win the event. So yeah, I
yeah.
guess it's fine. I just remember at the time I was thinking, okay, Danilovic is surely just at least pushing her super hard here, and she lost like 4-1 maybe or something like that. But yeah, okay, yeah, sure. I guess in hindsight, this loss looks a lot better than it was at the time.
Yeah, but as far as that, I mean, obviously you have like some wild cards here. Osorio and the net is obviously, still capable. But yeah, personally, I think those are all the big names in this section. So let's move on to section 2, where we have this is the Zheng section, and this is a big one because obviously Zheng, just took out Sabalenka. And before, if you had asked me coming into Rome, I mean, that match wasn't super fascinating for me just because it was one-sided in some respects. But after this Rome encounter, this does make me kind of excited about a potential Sabalenka Zhang match in a way that I haven't before. But I also know that Peyton Stearns lurks in the third round potentially for Kinwen, so that's kind of the big name I'm saying. And also Pavlyuchenkova, I know she hasn't been informed, but former finalist here, 2021. If she's just on it and having a really good day, ball striking wise, that won't be super easy. So I think Zhang has some challenges, and also Schneider in the fourth round, who's been in very good form.
Victoria Mboko.
Yeah, Victoria Mboko is.
I think she's gonna
Mboko
beat
is,
Peyton Stearns in the second round. I mean,
okay.
I mean,
I
she's
wouldn't be
kind
shocked
of
because her ability is crazy, right? She just won 125, and she pushed Coco, and
Oh, she was
already
in
in
the
Milan,
final,
she's
yeah,
doing really well.
of that 1-5, yeah.
Did she lose to Maya Sharif or something, or do I?
Yeah, Mayar Sharif, who is
Lost
just winning every single WTA 1-5 on clay. I think it's like 8 by now since 2021, which is insane. But yeah, I mean, to me, she's just like Alicia Parks with a weaker serve, but if she actually has, like a tennis IQ,
Yeah,
and
better movement and point
way
construction.
better movement as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's insane. 40-5 for the year, I think. I don't think clay is even her best surface, but yet that qualifying campaign just never looked in doubt. So I would not like sleep on her here. I think against Peyton it's like a 50-50 maybe. And but yeah, not that easy for Kinvan, I suppose. Pavlyuchenkova, even if she's not like healthy and out of rhythm, I guess you could have to always like look at her and think, okay, yeah, somewhat dangerous. Maybe the second round would be decent for Kinvan, but then again, she's been losing to players like, well, Eala-ish, let's say sometimes. Avanesian the last couple of years, the Roland Garros was a big issue for her.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Seems to me like as Schneider is a pretty big favorite to go like to the fourth round, and Kimber has, yeah, tough encounters almost every single round.
Yeah. I was gonna also mention Samsonova, but she's kind of like the classic player who will like win a 500 the week before and then kind of hasn't really like made a quarters at a slam yet.
What is
But
she doing this week? Is she winning a 500? I don't think so.
she's in the Strasbourg final, actually.
Oh, she's in the Strasbourg final. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that
she's
shows
playing
you how
Rybakina.
That shows you how
Yeah.
little I've been paying attention. I knew Rybakina is in the final. No,
Yeah.
I mean Grand Slam qualifying and some
Yeah,
Hamburg
yeah.
work this week has been just keeping me, especially Roland Garros qualifying. Obviously, it's just been keeping me from watching anything else. But that's good. Yeah, I mean, thank you. I knew that Rybakina is in there at least. So
Yeah.
that is true as well. That Samsonova likes that sort of trend as you described. Yes.
Samsonova 4-1 head to head, by the way, against Rybakina. So she might go on and win the title. But yeah, I mean, so do you think we're gonna get a Zhang Sabalenka quarterfinal? Because I think both of them don't have like a super easy road. So I don't think
Yeah,
it's
it
like
sounds a
chalk.
little unlikely that both of them get there.
Yeah. I mean, Zhang, like you said, last year lost in the third round in the third set tiebreak to Avanesian, and players like that, I think, could be dangerous. Like as much as the Rome run was convincing, I look at her whole season so far, and that hasn't been convincing. So that's kind of making me hesitate to just put Zhang. I think Sabalenka is still more likely to get to the quarters, but
And even Schneider, just put in
yeah,
like Schneider and Zheng into the fourth round. And is it like what, 55, 45 only or something like that? I don't know.
yeah,
Schneider is so good already that it's going to be tough if it's her in the fourth round. And it seems like it's a pretty high chance that it will be her in the fourth round.
yeah. I mean, I look at Schneider's section and I make her the clear favorite here. Like, there's nobody here that I would not back her to win against. So actually, she came out with a pretty favorable first three rounds overall.
Yeah, I think Schneider has to be very happy with this one. And Zheng, not so much.
Yeah. So I guess now we go to the bottom part of the top half, and we have Jasmine Paolini in this section and Svitolina. But yeah, Paolini obviously coming off of the Rome title in both singles and doubles, kind of has changed her season around since making the Miami semis. Is like super confident, obviously, and is gonna be defending those finalist points. Which a lot of the pressure has been taken off of her with that Rome title, with that prospect of defending. But if you look at this section, Svitolina also has a fair shot. You also have Noshkova. Do you see Jasmine living up to her billing here, or are there any other names that are really jumping out at you?
Yeah, I've said a few times before that I always struggle with like assessing the chances of Jasmine Paolini, and it always seems like her peak is about to end, and then it actually isn't ending because she, produces something like Rome. But the first two rounds look pretty okay for her, I suppose. Tomljanovic joined. I know that was the Rabat semi today, and
Yeah.
Ayla retired, so at least I know something about the other WTA event. And Svitolina, I know a lot of people have been highlighting over the last 2 weeks as like a potential Roland Garros dark horse favorite contender, whatever. And looking at this draw, I mean, I know she just pulled out of Strasbourg, so I'm assuming physically probably not. She wasn't 100%, but also didn't sound that tragic.
Yeah.
So looking at her section here, yeah, I think the fourth round is so achievable, and Paolini Svitolina is again like a 50-50 match potentially. Paolini has a tougher third round, I think, Potapova or Noskova, right? So yeah, Svitolina looks really nice to me. Also, Caroline Garcia, shout out in her last round Garros.
Yeah, I saw that news yesterday, and I was I was a little bit surprised at first, but then I realized, okay, like she this has been coming for a while.
Yeah, I think
And
she's
at the
been
same time-
hinting at that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Just some social media posts she put out last year, and then how she started the Tennis Insider Club podcast, and it's just been doing so well. And it's one of those things that you look at doing when your career is winding down. But
A tweet I remember from her as well is about like what she was 30 at the time, I think, and she says that today was the first time a sponsor declined me because I'm too old or something like that. And I
oh,
don't know,
really?
I just remember that because I started thinking about it, and that sponsor right now is thinking, oh yeah, I made the good I made a good call.
Yeah. That being said, 2023, she still finished top 20, and she played one of the matches of the year against Iga in Beijing. So, but since then, it's been tough for her. So, yeah, I mean, maybe she gets a good run here because Vekic right now, isn't playing like how well she did last year. So, yeah, with Garcia, you never really know because she's really hard to protect. But her top level could get her through here to the fourth round, maybe. Who knows? Kind of a
Yeah,
wild
such a
card.
such a
Wild
unique
card.
scenario as well, right? That you're about to retire in a few events, and
Yeah.
we don't know what it's going to do to her really, but yeah, still Svitolina as a whole, I really like her chances here.
Yeah, but overall, I gotta say, Paolini is the most consistent, most reliable one here. Like, I think I'm gonna go with Paolini. I just, one, I've been burned too many times thinking that
Yeah, and I will underestimate
you
her
know,
again.
the tournament is over. But honestly, she looks the most secure to me right now on slow clay, especially, and I don't
I
see
mean,
the.
Schneider led her 7-6 for love,
She
just
did, but also Paolini led 4-love in the first set, and it was, you know,
sure.
it was just that kind of match. But yeah, but then the semis and the finals. I mean, and she thoroughly outplayed Coco like twice this clay season. So certainly that was impressive. But yeah, also now we get to the crucial section, which is the Rybakina, Ostapenko, Świątek.
Rybakina Ostapenko? Oh no!
Yes.
I mean, I knew Kostyuk was in the third round and I knew Paolini was in the quarters, but I had no idea about this.
Well, I'll tell you
Ouch!
what. Rybakina Bencic was also a first round, but
Oh yeah,
Bencic
yeah, that that I
suffering
saw.
an arm
Yeah,
injury. So that's one less name, but obviously, Rybakina, Ostapenko. It's pretty likely that it's going to be one of those two in the fourth round for Iga.
yeah.
Just
I don't really see how one of them doesn't make it.
hmm
Elena, especially. I mean, Ostapenko can obviously lose to like anybody, but look at this section for Rybakina in the first two rounds. I don't see how she doesn't make it to the third round, to be honest. And this is pretty difficult. She's also obviously, firing up a little in Strasbourg. Well, I know Paulini I underestimate, and Rybakina I always just say, no, I don't care about her ranking. She's still up there. I
I mean, she's
seriously believe
number.
that.
She's number 8 in the race now with the final in Strasbourg, and
Hmm.
she was a little underwhelming for sure in Madrid and Rome. But you
And
can't just like rule her
she
out.
has nothing to
Yeah.
defend post Wimbledon, right? So that
Yeah.
plays into it. Yeah.
Um, Polina Kudermetova versus Ostapenko. Kudermetova is, the ball striking is on. She's also capable, but I look at it and also Kostyuk in round 3 isn't easy. I mean, I know generally Iga has had her number against Marta. Just because I mean they're both great movers, they're both such good all court players, but Iga just Marta would just go for a little bit too much press against her. Like even Cincinnati last year, I remember watching that and thinking, Marta is going to give Iga a really tough test, but hasn't always panned out. But at the same time, she's in the form of her life, Marta, with those 2 matches against Sabalenka. This is some of the best tennis I've seen her play. And also, I mean,
Yeah,
Stramkova Raducanu was the first 2 rounds of the Australian Open, right? And Iga won those matches like 2-0, 1-0. But this is a different story here.
yeah. I think against Emma she'd still win pretty easily on clay. Shramkova, less so. But yeah, Kostyuk. The problem I guess with this for Iga is that the tough opponents are likely to get there. Like Kostyuk
Yeah.
is pretty likely to make round 3. Rybakina is pretty likely to make round 3 or 4. If it's not Rybakina, it's probably going to be Ostapenko. So I guess the biggest problem with this draw is that like usually you can think, okay, so maybe this one isn't gonna get there, maybe this one is just gonna lose somewhere along the way. But I think it's pretty likely that Iga just gets, straight up the toughest possible opponent every single round here. So this is rough. Yeah, I mean she'll need to somehow be on point. It's been a few weeks, I suppose. Well, few maybe is a stretch, but it's been some time since the loss to Collins, and so much practicing for her at Roland Garros. Uh, Hopefully, we're just gonna see a different version because this is difficult.
Yeah, the draw was really tough. But if I look at it, also Jovic versus Rybakina, potential second round. I mean, that's interesting for sure.
That's a rematch, right?
Yeah, they already played in Australia, maybe.
Australia or US Open, yeah, one of these.
Yeah,
There was that
and
draw where Elena played two super young girls like twice in a row. No, it must have been Australia because US Open, I
yeah,
think she pulled out like in the second round. So yeah, it must have been Australia.
and then potential Christian versus Kostyuk could be interesting as well.
That's the one player who can beat Marta probably, before the
Yeah.
third round.
So yeah, and then Raducanu, I feel kind of confident against. If I'm Iga,
I
I
think
don't
so
think
too.
Iga will feel too threatened there. So I'm mostly looking at first round could be a little tricky, but again, I kind of would like her floor would need to be really really low to lose there still. So it's really all about the third and fourth round, mainly the fourth round to be honest.
I think so. And Shramkova, I'd give a little like benefit of the doubt to as well, but
Yeah,
I mean, sure. But yeah, third round, fourth round, that's actually difficult. So for getting Paolini in the quarters, which is probably the second best option out of the four, I guess Iga gets this in the third and fourth, and it's still more of a negative. Like seeing this draw, I think she's less likely percentage wise to win the title than before it was made.
yes. I wonder what that Ostapenko Rybakina potential round 3 would look like because obviously, I mean, head to heads and stuff with Ostapenko is very irrelevant sometimes. But she's never beaten Elena, and if Elena's in really good form, and it's not a question of giving it your all to try to win a smaller title the week before, she could very well carry this over. I do think she's been playing better in Strasbourg, but and most of her losses this year have come against players who've gone on to do really well in the tournament. So I think perhaps the Elena Rybakina decline is a little over exaggerated.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
But either way, no matter who it is, that's pretty tough. Although Iga has confidence now in the Rybakina matchup of having won 2 in a row, and evened up the head-to-head 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, outmaneuvering her like that the last couple of times, it does give you a little confidence that maybe in conditions like this, it might be similar once more.
Yeah. Also, now we go to the bottom half, and right away, obviously, I see Osaka and Badosa, and that's kind of the popcorn match that I guess everybody will have circled immediately when the draw came out, and probably hyped like crazy. Good to see Badosa back healthy, because she's been struggling with her back for quite a long time, and I think she says she's finally 100%. She's short of matches, but obviously, level-wise, she's
had a few this week though, right?
Yeah, she played pretty decent this week. Lost in 3 to Samsonova in the quarters.
That's the match I missed, I guess, because I remember Badosa was in there, but I just had absolutely no idea that Samsonova was even around.
So yeah, I mean, she got a little bit of match play this week, but I think she's still short of her best. At the same time, Naomi, it's been a while since she played in Rome, so and that match against Stearns, while very encouraging, was also heartbreaking in some ways because I think people were looking at that and going like, "Oh, she can make the semis, perhaps even further," because she'd come off with that title in Saint Malo, and obviously last year match against Iga and overall clay swing. Still a lot of positives, but this section is. I mean, I only just look at Andreeva and I think, oh wow, yeah, probably penciling her to the quarters.
I mean, whoever wins out of Osaka Badosa, the draw opens up, right? Kasatkina has not been doing too well this season. I'm not sure if she's even won like 2 matches in one event or something like that. If she no, she did it, but only at the Australian Open, I think. And Andreeva to me just looks like a very strong contender for the quarters here, barring a good performance from Osaka or Badosa.
Yeah.
But like anyone else, I don't really know how Mirra loses.
By the way, if this was 2024, I would have said, watch out for Putin-Seva.
Yeah, maybe.
I would have said maybe Putin-Seva could give Andreeva problems in the third round. Or honestly, maybe even volley nets, but mostly Putin-Seva.
I think she struggled with volley nets when they played, right?
Yeah.
But that seems to be like part of the issues that Mira doesn't really have anymore. I think for now her biggest issue is just not being able to think clearly in the Gauff matchup, and that's not gonna be until like the semis, I guess, right? Because if
that would be a semi.
Yeah, because Coco is number 2, so it has to be semi.
Osaka
or Badosa can definitely threaten Andreeva. I don't know if anyone else can.
Yeah, with Paula, I would say if she gets through Naomi, just because she has struggled with that back so much, I don't know if she'll be able to put together 3-4 wins in a row so quickly. But with Naomi, maybe she could get on a roll. Like maybe it's one of those things like Rome where she just wins 3-4 in a row and then she gets better with every match. Hard to say also because Kazatkina used to be a factor 2022 and 2023 and actually parts of last year as well. She just didn't bring it in the big events outside of the 500s. But this year she's struggling quite a lot. Like just lost 1-3 to Raducanu. Doesn't really have that many match wins or memorable moments besides the fourth round in AO and a really good match against Navarro. So she's normally one to watch, especially at RG. That's RG and Wimbledon. Those tend to be her best slams. But Siniakova early and I feel like there's a lot of similarly type of style players outside of Osaka and Badosa in this section. Like just a lot of really good crafty counterpunchers.
Yeah, and I think the bottom part of it is definitely more difficult than the top. So once more, Andreeva seems to get a bit of a boost here.
Yeah, and I would say she's the favorite to get to the semis as well because she is in that Pegula potential quarterfinal. So, and Pegula looks unlikely to get there right now based on what we've seen.
Let's see who she's going to face potentially. But yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I also wouldn't back her. Even Todoni opening round. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. It's kind of hard to say. I mean, with the slower
actually, this isn't that tough overall. What has Muchova been playing anything? I think she pulled out of Rome.
No, right? But Muchova is one of those kind of players who doesn't need to play a whole lot. Like she can just bring it.
Yeah, but she needs to be healthy for that.
Yes, if she's healthy, because then she would play Sakari again, and they played 2 French Opens in a row, and Muchova won both those matches over good versions of Sakari too. But maybe actually Sakari maybe has a chance now that honestly it's really hard to say. Who the hell knows? But Avenesian maybe again potentially could get to the 4th round here. Obviously Martins is probably the smart pick just because she's very much the kind of player who lives up to her seeding every time.
Boison for the total redemption arc of getting injured last year, not getting the wild card, and now she gets the wild card and makes the quarters. I mean, honestly, this section is just so wild that I wouldn't even say that's impossible. I guess that's why, because I think I saw somebody posting like projected quarterfinals on Twitter, and Vondroshova was mentioned there. And I was like, what the hell is happening? And now that I'm looking at this section, I kind of start understanding that because yeah, you could name a lot of.
Get there. She could easily get there, actually.
Yeah, I don't think she's been playing too much either, right? But just looking at the names here, there's really nobody that is just like speaking out to you as an informed player. There's obviously a lot of quality in there, just that quality that hasn't necessarily been shown in recent times.
Yeah. By the way, January, February, I was impressed with Jabor, and I was thinking she could have a good year. But since the start of March, it's been tough. And also her ranking is quite low in a lot of these tournaments, and She's been
Yeah,
losing a lot of
that's why we
matches.
kind of skipped over her. But obviously, it could be her as well. I mean, we literally have a very weird setup here.
It's a little bit like that Fritz section. I don't know who's coming through. The
Yeah,
Pegula one is similar to the Fritz on the men's side.
and it could be Pegula as well. Just like to be clear,
Yes.
it does not have to be an unseeded player. Pegula, we just said that she doesn't seem the strongest right now, but who cares in this section? Like this actually is pretty nice for her as well in a way because
Hmm.
yeah, you can imagine her making it out of this one and put her in the Rybakina Ostapenko Kostyuk one, and I don't think she has any chance of making the semis or the quarters.
Yeah, interestingly, both Jabor and Vondrosova made the quarters here last year. They lost to Coco and Iga. So, but obviously that was a year ago, and times have changed quite a lot. And obviously this was a Wimbledon final in 2023, so it could be a second round here.
Definitely a good story. Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna name a favorite here, I really have absolutely no clue.
Yeah, based on watchability, I would love it to be Mahova, but obviously health is a huge factor in that.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
starting against Parks on slow clay is definitely helping. I mean, it's a free win most of the time, right?
yes, but it very well could be Pagula or Ons or Vondrosova. It could be anybody, any one of these players. So honestly, hard to say. Maybe Elise Martins get to the quarters. And yeah, now we get to the Coco potential quarterfinal opponent, which is Keys. We could have Keys Navarro in the fourth round. Could be a rematch of last year, third round. But yeah, you've also got players like Haddad Maya, who's also in better form now. Reached the semis today, lost 6-2 in the third to Rybakina. And obviously Diane Perry is always somewhat tricky in the early rounds. I think Wickmeyer, this is her last tournament, right? Or she's retiring after
Wimbledon.
this? Wimbledon? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was somewhere around this next couple of months. Katie Bolter's also won a 125, but honestly, I like Keys' chances here.
This isn't that different to the previous section. Like this is also completely wild. This
Yeah,
is just basically like relying on Madison to get through because otherwise it could be anybody.
I'm also looking at Kenin because she could
Yeah.
go on one of those runs. It's possible.
I mean, it won't be Anina Wickmeyer, I don't think. I actually have a lot of respect for her game, but obviously, health-wise, her whole career has been kind of weird. U.S. Open semi-finalist, though, many decades ago. Well, decades no, but many moons ago. Yeah, I honestly have no idea. Again, I think Section 6 and 7 aren't that dissimilar. There's a couple of bigger names. There's a couple of players with a lot of history who aren't doing too well right now, but nobody who's like kind of just firing on all cylinders and like very consistent, which which is the reason why I'm kind of not including, I guess, Keys in that.
Yeah, I guess a good first round match to watch out for is Baptiste against Haddad Maya. It's because I see Haddad Maya speaking of form, but then Baptiste is a dangerous first round. And then I feel like Emma Navarro has been struggling to win like 3 matches in a row and stuff, but she looks favorable to get to the third round. And then after that, I don't know. Could be third round, could be quarters.
Yeah, I
Could be
mean,
even semis because she has a good matchup with Gauff. She beat her 2 slams in a row, and she causes all sorts of issues. But form-wise, you look at the race and you're like, wow, how is she number 10 or 11? But a lot of that is that Merida title and that Australian Open
Australia
quarterfinal.
quarters. Yeah.
Yeah, but outside of those two results,
Merida was a 500 this year.
yeah, it was a 500 where she won against Orengo 6-0, 6-0 in the final.
Yeah. But I guess last year I don't think it was a 500. So yeah, that makes sense. Sure, with a 500 title and a slam quarterfinal, you're gonna be high. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of bolstering her, but like outside of that, it's not been anything like last year.
Yeah, I mean, this one is also pretty insane. I think Navarro, kind of just like Pegula, in a lot of sections, she would be kind of locked out for me. Like, I don't think she would go deep. But in this one, why wouldn't she win 4 or 5 matches?
Yeah, it could happen again. And she's been doing well in the slams, right? She got to the semis at US Open, quarters, fourth round last year, French, quarters at Wimbledon. So the slam trajectory has been going well for her.
Pre-Australia, we also were talking about her form being well, much worse than in 2024, and then obviously a run happened. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
this looks just as wild to me as number 6, with maybe the slight, I mean, obviously mention of Madison Keys, but I don't know if I fully trust her to, I don't know, just not have a bad performance in there somewhere on clay. I know she's had a, a French Open run before. I know.
Yes. So yeah, that's going to be Coco's section, and then Coco, her draw looks pretty favorable. I would
Oh
say. I
yeah,
mean, Countskaya potential third round opponent, but Countskaya beat Pegula in Strasbourg. Uh, but honestly, yeah, there's not much recent, consistent week to week evidence to suggest that Countskaya even gets there. And also health wise, she had to withdraw in the next match against Collins. And Krejcikova this would be her second tournament back. She did play in Strasbourg. She lost early to
yeah.
Lynette.
She lost to Lina too.
So and then Alexandrova is obviously going to be like the trendy pick here because she is having the kind of a very consistent Francisco Cerundolo type WTA
Oh no,
type
it
last
makes
few
sense.
months.
Makes sense.
But she had to pull out of Rome with an injury, so some of her momentum might be disrupted. And she doesn't usually bring it in the slams. I think that's the big one. That's the big thing is she hasn't been past the fourth round of a slam yet.
Yeah, and for a while
She's
she
a good enough
wasn't past
player.
like the second round or something like that. There was a big stat as well. Her Haddad Maya, yeah, she had some issues.
Yeah.
And it's clay too.
Yeah.
Like that's the
So
slam I don't necessarily favor her at, I suppose. So yeah, this looks pretty great for Coco to reach the quarters.
and then the semis most likely will be against Andreeva, who she's 4-0 against. So honestly, I
Yeah,
looked at this and I looked at the men's side and I was like, Alcaraz and Gauff, they look pretty likely to get to the final. But we'll see. We'll see about Carlos. We'll get to that. But
yeah. I'm. It kind of like I really want to say that Andreeva is my like winner pick for the whole thing, but she needs to avoid golf. I think
yeah,
she's
if
just
Gauff
really
loses
getting
before the
lost in
semis,
that matchup.
I like her chances to get to the final.
Me too, and I even like her chances to win it, but just Coco seems to be a little bit of a different challenge for her. I mean, she just feels that constant pressure to attack, and yeah, she hasn't been handling it too well. The frustration, like all the like youth, all the inexperience comes out. After Madrid and Rome, I'm not fully sold on her potentially overcoming this matchup. Let's say in 2 weeks. But both of them have a really good shot at making the semis.
So I guess circling back big picture before we go to the men's side, on Iga's tournament, it's because there's more range of outcomes this year, and expectations are naturally going to be lower. A lot of people won't be picking her to win, and I guess you'll have to use, I guess you'll be looking at her aura and kind of her record here the last 4 or 5 years, and the fact that she came to Paris so early and has been training all this time, and she's not the kind of player who also looks too far ahead in her draw. So I mean,
Yeah, I
hopefully
think
she
she
hasn't
probably
because
doesn't know who she's facing. It's
right,
just,
right. She's one of those players, right, who just goes round by round, doesn't want to know about third round, fourth round, probably has no idea until she actually wins, right? So,
I think that's the right call, definitely.
so I think that's how she should be approaching this because it is a pretty hard draw, no matter how you slice it. Uh, but yeah, I'm I'm not quite so sure expectations wise. I guess I just don't want to see a lot of those panicky performances like we saw against Collins, and then after that, it's kind of more open. Uh, but what would be like a good run? Because I almost feel like when she gets to the semis and she's playing Sabalenka, then I kind of like Owen's theory. But she has to get there first.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like if she loses to whoever in the fourth round, it might be Ostapenko or Rybakina. It won't be a good tournament, even if the match is super close. Like, that's the kind of standard she has at Roland Garros. So yeah, I think making the semis is kind of like the minimum, let's say, and then from there, if the performances are solid, I guess it's not the end of the world. But yeah, even with a difficult draw, losing in the third or fourth round, considering what Iga has been doing at Roland Garros for the past 5 years, considering what
Yeah.
she had been doing on clay for the past 5 years, yeah, I would say that's still going to be a major disappointment for her.
Hmm. And of course, that Ostapenko threat is pretty real. Just knowing that Yelena is going to be pretty fired up for that encounter if that happens. And obviously, the last two matches go into it. And yeah, who knows? Maybe it'll be different at RG. But so far, the rivalry, it's been tough for Iga to kind of find openings and make it competitive. I think there are some positives from the Stuttgart match for sure. But you know, it'll be a tough tournament for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the draw doesn't help. That's one thing you can say for sure. I think her chances of winning the tournament have been lowered by the draw. But again, as we mentioned, Tom's point at the very beginning, still probably one of the most important things, or maybe even the most important thing, is how she's going to feel on the court and her mental state. And if that is fine, she might as well win the whole thing.
Yep, and with that, we have to go to the men's side where, yeah, again, it's similar-ish to the women in the way that it's more top-heavy, for sure. But at the same time, you have Sinner, you have Zverev, you have Djokovic, Draper. They're all in the same. They're all in the top half.
I will already start by
Yes.
saying there are two favorites only. If
Yes,
anyone
yes.
outside of them wins the title, I'm going to be pretty shocked.
Yeah, so I would. So for me, I think I mostly agree. And then if it's Djokovic, I will be shocked, but not as shocked if it's someone else. So I think of the other names, I still would probably make Djokovic the third favorite, but I think there's still a big gap between Sinner and Djokovic.
It's an opinion. I think I've said before, either on Twitter or like some other stuff, that basically it's Sinner, Alcaraz. That order, I guess, has been fixed after Rome. That it has to be Alcaraz then Sinner, and then it's basically 7, 6 players that you can choose as your number 3, and nobody can tell you you're wrong. It's all just a matter of opinion. Personally, I wouldn't have Novak number 3, but I can't blame you for doing that.
Yeah. So and I think after the draw, that same opinion didn't really change for me. So
I still haven't seen it too much, but also, yeah, I don't see how the draw would impact my opinion here. I will tell you if it does while we are, talking about it now. But I don't really see what sort of a draw it would have to be for either Sinner or Alcaraz to really change my mind.
I saw a lot of people were saying online that Sinner's draw is really difficult. You look at it like Rinderknech, and then most likely Gasquet or Udman, you're like, no, not difficult. But then you get to the third round and you're like, maybe ADF, but that's what people said in Rome. And then you got Jesper de Jong instead, and it's like it could be Lehechka also in the third
There's
round.
no way a draw is difficult if you have Rinderknech in this form this year in the opening round, and then Atman or Gasquet. I mean, no.
Yeah, but I guess the third round onwards, they were looking at potentially Davidovich, Fokina, and Fils. But even for Fils, he has to beat Jari, he has to beat Munar, who's been playing pretty well, and he's got to beat Rublev in an earlier match. Earlier than usual, like third round.
No, Fils to me is the only the only player we can actually look at and say, okay, he's got a chance of beating Jannik, except he just hasn't shown like enough of, I don't know, just like a massive match in best of 5 against a quality opponent, right? We just haven't seen that.
And there will be a lot of pressure on him, right?
Round.
As like the number 1 Frenchman at RG, where he hasn't won a match yet before. So
yeah, I was just saying, yeah, Arnaldi and Davidovich Fokina last couple of years. I don't know if it adds. Like, is there any other Frenchman around him in the rankings? Patrick Pericard, I guess. Humbert is also there, but he's injured. Yeah, I guess maybe there's a little pressure, but I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a guy who could beat Jannik in a best of 5 match, I think, but just we haven't really seen him do it against someone this big in this sort of setting. So I think he's still a little away from that. So yeah, I mean, Sinner to me is definitely making the quarters, I think.
Yeah, but I would love to see that. I would love to see those tests against ADF and Fils. Otherwise, I
Fils
think it's going to be
especially.
very
Fils
easy.
especially. I think ADF is much less dangerous.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if ADF and Sinner have ever played, but I don't imagine it would be as threatening as Fils.
Probably not.
But yeah, so I think that
Rublev
would
in
be
the Hamburg final.
Rublev's in the Hamburg final. Yep, he's picked up some points here this week. At the same time, hasn't really beaten anybody that I would consider a super dangerous player for RG. I mean, he beat
No, but
Darderi, and then
the
he
first
has
two
a good
rounds
record
here.
against Felix. Oh, the first 2 rounds here. Yeah, I mean, Lloyd Harris is coming
Yeah,
off a good
I
qualifying
guess I was
campaign.
just trying to say that, like, he could
mean,
easily be the one making the 4th round, except
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think he can really beat Sinner. I mean, we've talked about it many
No.
times that he's kind of like a worse version of Sinner in many ways.
Right. Yeah, no matter how good he plays, it's just going to be really, really hard to see that one being remotely competitive or upset alert-ish.
I mean, he beat Sinner in Montreal last year.
He
but
did, but so many physical issues for Sinner
I do think so
that
as well,
match.
yes.
So big caveat there. But then at the same time, yeah, if he gets to the 4th round, that would be a good result for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would probably be picking Face even with this tough draw. I mean, Nicholas Jarry he's been playing a little bit better than he was like the last 6 months of 2024, right? So that could be tricky, are they?
He can always be tricky in the first round. I think was it Fields that he played at one slam? I don't remember. Anyway, but I think Fields already struggled with Jari at some point. But yeah, I mean it's a lottery with Jari.
Yeah, and then obviously this section is going to be about Jack Draper, number 5 seed, Rome quarterfinalist, Madrid finalist, and yeah, I mean we see it on the screen. De Minaur is at the top. De Minaur versus Jara. Honestly, kind of, we talked about Alex being able to beat the players ranked below him and stuff, but like that's not an easy first round. Jara's been in good form. And then obviously you have Menchik, Hurkacz, and then the final of Geneva. And Hurkacz and Fonseca is going to be the match that everybody will be salivating over. And yeah, I mean, and then you would probably say Fonseca wins that and probably losing to Draper in the 3rd round, right?
Is this the first time that everybody is salivating over a Hubert Hurkacz match? I don't know. I mean, the Geneva final tomorrow looks pretty tasty too, I suppose. I like the Hurkacz-Djokovic matchup quite a bit, but yeah, typically maybe not the most flashy player. I don't know. I think Fonseca would kill Rublev or Tsitsipas if they played. Hurkacz, though, in these conditions, I'm not convinced. Considering what we saw from him in like Rome, Estoril, yeah, I think at Roland Garros maybe let's just wait another year. Menchik, tough opener for sure. Basiashvili as well, if he plays him in the 2nd round, easily could beat him. So I think this is maybe more about Draper and De Minaur indeed. And yeah, we've said it many times about Alex. Generally beats the guys he's supposed to. I guess if that trend continues, he should be at least in the 4th round. I'm maybe not too sold on like Draper being, a contender for the French, given again because it's Roland Garros, because of the conditions, because of the surface. But it's not a bad draw for him.
Yeah, I would be picking him to get to the quarters here, but
yeah, first 2 rounds look good for him. Hurkacz or Fonseca.
Yeah, Hurkacz or Fonseca, to be honest, is very 50-50. You could convince me either way. It's a total coin flip. Yeah.
Yeah, uncharacteristically, I actually would be probably favoring Hurkacz right now.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure. I think it would be a pretty divided opinion if you asked a bunch of people. It would be like, because like the Tommy Paul match was very competitive, and the
I was in Madrid.
Oh yeah, Madrid, and then who did he lose to in Rome? Marozsan, right? Yeah.
It's not about who, right? It's about how he looked, how the forehand didn't quite have the same punch.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. If he was playing like Rublev, I would be picking him.
I would love his chances against Tsitsipas, any court in the world. I think he would know what to do right away and just join Tsitsipas and Rune in. Sorry, Tsitsipas, Fils and Rune
Okay, yeah,
in.
yes,
Yeah,
probably.
dominating the head-to-heads against Steph.
Yes. And then yeah, now we go to the Zverev section. So the Zverev narrative is kind of interesting because obviously the last 3 months hasn't been playing his anywhere close to his standard. But he did make the Rome quarterfinal. He did win that title in Munich. Then he was apparently sick and threw up 37 times in Hamburg, and he lost there. So I don't know if he's coming to the tournament. Like it's different than last year, right? Where we were like very sure he was gonna go very far and maybe even like his best chance of winning a slam and all of that. Like there was much more reason to feel optimistic about him. But here, you kind of just look at it and you're like, I'm not sure if he can get past the fourth round even.
I think it's worth remembering that last year, I mean, he had lots of work to do in the first week as well. 1-4 in the fifth
Mhm.
against Grigspor, 5-setter as well against Rune. People kind of forget about that and just think, oh yeah, Zverev was an amazing form last clay season. He was in the French Open final, obviously. Well, it wasn't that obvious. And yeah, I mean, here, kind of just like a few of these favorites we are talking about on the women's side that he can easily pick up the pieces. For me, in my like power rankings, he'd probably still be third, but it's a very distant third to not to the number 2 spot. Oh, really, really distant.
Mm.
And yeah, I guess right now that the pool of players who can just get him into trouble is a little wider. Arnaldi here starting against Oger Aliassime, then Koboli, who might be tired after Hamburg. That's not a bad one. Obviously, Franz Cerundolo has been a very tough opponent for Zverev. If he beats Grigspor, he probably makes the fourth round here. I don't really see who stops him other than Talon. So yeah, it's not obvious. It wasn't obvious last year either, but this time, of course, his form, his
Yeah.
confidence is not quite the same.
Yeah, I think last year because of the Rome title and because there was more consistency overall, people were kind of like expecting him to get to the final. But then you're right, it was much harder than that. The third and fourth rounds, especially, he was very lucky to escape against Greek Spore, and Runa had some chances even in a fourth set tiebreak. He was up 2 sets to 1. But yeah, even Leonard Tien in the first round is like not going to be easy because of Acapulco. I would not be giving him a
Yeah,
chance
I mean
on
it's
clay
gonna be like
to win,
3 hours of
but yeah,
grinding, but he's not gonna win, right?
he would just be a pest, for
Yeah,
Zverev.
it's gonna
And
be a long match. Zverev is gonna have to attack, which he kind of hates. But I just don't see how Lerner wins that on clay. Just yeah, sure, make
yeah,
it a 3 hour slog, sure, but not win. Not in best of
mm.
5 at the very least.
And then even Jesper De Jong and Pissarro, like they're talented, but over best of five, yes, you would always be picking Zverev.
Yeah, I think it's a bit much. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then that whole Kaboli Arnaldi section is very interesting. So that would be a good match if they play. And yeah, also Ethan Quinn qualifying, and Grigor looks more vulnerable just health wise and consistency wise. I feel like no one is really talking about him. So
Yeah, I don't think we should. I mean, Queen has a real chance
mm,
to beat him. Shevchenko, maybe second round or something like that.
mm,
Serundol or Grigspor are the Serundol or Grigspor are the favorites over Dimitrov in the third round for sure.
yeah.
Last year, Grigor made the quarters, but well, it's been a year and it's not been a
Mm.
best like last few months.
Yep. So that is the Zverev side of things, and then we go to and then obviously then you have Djokovic, and you have potentially Djokovic having to play Medvedev in the fourth round, Zverev in the quarters, and then Sinner in the semis. That's quite a tough route to make a final at this stage.
I mean, the first 4 rounds, like, could they be any easier?
Yes, McDonald hates clay, and he hits the ball very flat, and
Yeah. Mute is,
it'd
of
be
course,
easy.
somewhat tricky. And, like, you wouldn't
Yes.
be shocked at this stage of his career if he actually manages to get Novak into something,
Mm,
just uncomfortable. And yeah, why not?
yeah.
But overall, like these first 4 rounds, they're perfect for Novak. Kinda. I mean, if he doesn't make it to the quarters here, I guess he was never making the quarters.
Yes, that's kind of what I think. The first 3 rounds, especially, and then Medvedev. I don't know. That could be a grind, but I wouldn't be picking Medvedev.
First, let's see Daniel make the 4th round.
I think he'll get there. Most likely.
I guess Nori is the biggest threat to him, but
Yeah, I would be surprised if Medvedev doesn't get there, just because Umber is like not really a factor. Yeah.
The draw is perfect for Novak, and then it kind of just depends on like what our personal trust in him is. Mine is not too high, but at the same time, I guess it would have to be like a Cerundolo or a Zverev in the quarters to beat him rather than, I don't know, Misolic in the 3rd round. I think Misolic might easily make the 3rd round, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, because like Shapo is the seed, and let's see Shapo get there. And also, even if he does, it's not a. I wouldn't like his chances.
Yeah, if it's not Mute, I don't really see who Novak loses to here.
That would be wild if he lost to Bute in the 2nd round. I mean, Bute is going to bring a lot of his tricks and the flair and the defense and the speed and all that, but there's no real like offensive threat there.
I don't think it matters too much, but
Like if Djokovic is hitting the ball well, he'll probably get through that. But I could see it being a slog.
Zverev teen-ish.
Yes.
To me,
Very
to
similar to
me,
that.
it's not quite like that. I mean, stylistically, yeah, sure, I see what you're saying. To me, this is much more difficult, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, Djokovic again. If he's not making the quarters here, I don't think he ever was.
Yes, and then in the quarters, it would be likely Zverev or Cerundolo. Cerundolo, by the way, yeah, last couple of years, been very close to beating Runa and Djokovic. So this year,
I
if he
think he'd
does
do
it,
it this time. I mean, obviously, I might change my opinion as we watch the first few rounds, but Cerundolo Djokovic in the quarters, like just like remembering their match last year, France should be thinking of winning this right now.
yeah, I mean, it's just a question of mentally, can he rise to that moment and can he actually finish it? Because even in
Yeah.
his really good clay swing this year, he's had moments where I was like, he could have done even better. So
Oh, route semi
really
for
good
sure
spot.
in Madrid.
Yeah.
And the collapse against Alcaraz in Monte Carlo, where we never
Yeah.
really like got to see what happens there.
And the Shelton match in Munich, that I really
Sure,
thought he
yeah.
was going to get there.
I guess I was just ignoring Munich, as like an irrelevant event, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, of course, yeah.
By the way, something that I'm really confident in, and it would have been crazy to say it a year ago, is like Lorenzo Musetti is making the semis here. Like I feel
Making
really
the
confident.
semis, okay.
Mostly because Runa is just like, I have no idea what we're gonna get from him. He could even lose to RBA in the first round. Like legit, I would not be surprised. And right now, if they play each other, I would still be picking Lorenzo. Like he's made semis or better at all 3 of the Masters. Like he looks ready. Like he looks like the 4th seed that Fritz says.
If it's not Rune, then sure. Like if it's not a Musetti Rune, which at this point, if Holger is healthy, if he hasn't lost too much energy, I think it's 50-50-ish. If it's not that, sure. Best of 5, I think only suits Musetti even more. Obviously, he hasn't had a Roland Garros run, but he was running into some ridiculous draws. Number 1 seed 3 times, number 4 seed 1 time, all before the quarters, even in the first round. So yeah, I mean, this is his chance. It's definitely not like it's an now or never. He can still be seated high for more Roland Garros in the future. But to be number 8 and avoid all of this, it's perfect, and it would be such a disappointment for him right now if he lost early. And yeah, if it's not Rune, I don't really think he's going to lose.
Yeah, but let's hope we get that Runa and.
Oh yeah, that's one of the best matches of the event right there. If both are healthy and everything is fine.
If they happen, but yeah, I was hoping to see a little bit more of Holger carry the momentum that he had in Barcelona, but then he had this illness, and he put out this post that he's been dealing with some stuff health wise, but yeah, sure, why not? I mean, he can definitely make the fourth round. And also this Thomas Mahach, who's a killer when he's actually not retiring, but then he's retired 8 times. So since the U.S. Open.
Yeah, recently it's just a streak of retirements, so including this week, obviously.
So yeah, another potential run to Nakashima Musetti third round, but honestly, I think Navone is really tough in the first round.
That's already pretty tough.
Because a lot of those serves are gonna come back. And
can I call it a 50-50 or will you scream at me?
It's definitely 50-50, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's lottery match.
Navone has fallen off so much in the rankings, but I really don't think he's playing worse than last year, or at least not.
Oh no, not at all. Like yeah, he's dipped because of that Rio points thing that he had to defend and all that, but
he's still
he looks like the same player.
Top
yeah,
50 on
exactly
clay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think his ranking appropriately reflects actually his level right now.
I think so too, yeah.
But yeah, okay, now this is the section. This is the chaos section right here.
This is the one I saw. This is the one because Vansh was basically asking like who's gonna come out of this. And it's just like the Pegula one, yeah. I mean, it might as well be the high seed, or it might be somebody unseeded and very unexpected. Like, I don't think it will be Brooksby or Faria, for example, but there's a few names here for sure who could totally surprise, and why not?
Yeah. I would say if Taylor looks really good in his first round against Altmaier, I might just pick him. Because I know like if this was last year, it would be hugely disappointing if Taylor doesn't get to the quarters.
But he's playing Altmaier in the opening round. Just that kind of struck me again. He's playing Altmaier in the opening round. Somebody who has defeated Sinner, Berrettini at Roland Garros before.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. And I don't think he did much before those runs. But then he just kind of played insanely well in both those matches, right?
Yeah, 5.5 hours with Jannik, I think. Yeah, this is even tougher for Taylor than I thought. I kind of didn't spot that Altmaier round one.
And then also Montero if he gets there, and then same with.
Yeah, Montero has been losing everything recently, but Kopshiva, I guess not a big danger to Fritz. But yeah, like peak Montero would be difficult. I just don't know if I trust it right now. But I mean, I was kind of kidding when I said Medvedev in the group chat, but that's honestly only because of fitness. He still hasn't won a Grand Slam match, and I just don't know if he can win like 2 or 3.5 hour battles in a row. But level-wise, like strictly if I'm looking at this quarter, I see no reason why Medvedev wouldn't be able to make the quarters. It's just, I don't really trust him in best of 5 yet because he hasn't given me any reason to.
Yeah, someone who I've really enjoyed watching him more this year is Komisanya. Okay. Like I suddenly believe that his speed and his defense and his forehand, and also his serve is somewhat underrated as well. Like because all the other seeds are so unconvincing. Like okay, like it's still kind of unlikely that he gets to the quarters, but I wouldn't be totally shocked.
No, he's in the mix.
He could do it, right? Like
he's in the mix. Komesania, Darderi, Medvedev, all of these guys I think are pretty much same chance. Like they're in the mix as good unseeded players if they fire up. Why not? Yeah. In this section, so possible.
Yeah, and then also that match with Musetti would be very entertaining, that quarterfinal. Like Musetti would be the favorite, but that would be like really good shot making. Yeah, I don't know whether to go with Fritz or somebody else.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I know I've just said some stuff, but like, I mean, if I'm doing a bracket for this, and I'm probably gonna do that like tomorrow on the toilet or somewhere. Yeah. It's like a running joke by now that I mentioned doing brackets on the toilet, which possibly I'm going to do tomorrow. We'll see. But Hamad Medvedev, I'm probably gonna pick him, to be honest, just for fun. I mean, the chance that you're actually gonna land the right winner in this whole thing is very small. I actually don't even like Hamad's first round draw, but just the whole section is so wild that
it's madness. Yeah.
Alex Nicholson, Ashtori champion.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
How about Juan Macerundolo? Juan Macerundolo and Fran Cerundolo in the quarterfinals of the
slam. Yeah, that's too much.
I mean, I wouldn't count him out here completely. I think Brooksby and Faria probably are the guys I'm kind of just like not looking at all. Probably Safiullin as well. But everyone else, I think, is in the mix.
Yeah. If this was like 2020, you could say PCB.
Yeah. I mean, if I trusted his fitness over like 4 best of 5 set matches, yeah.
But yeah, big opportunity for anybody here. So looking forward to that.
I would love to. I don't care if it's Medvedev or whoever, but I would love to get a good story here. Like somebody,
Yeah.
somebody with like a really high quality game, good high peak, just make it. I don't really want it to be Fritz. I'm sorry, Taylor, but that would just be like, yeah, okay, he's gonna lose to Alcaraz. Oh, not Alcaraz, but Musetti now, for example, right? But
Probably,
yeah,
right?
I just want
Because Musetti.
something. I want something special. Like I don't want us
Okay.
to just be sitting there and thinking, okay, yeah, so this section is wild. Who is going to make the quarters? And then it's like kind of like the most normal answer. If we already have something like this, I want
Sure.
something special to happen.
I get that. Yeah. Makes sense. Rude and Paula are the favorites in this section. But also, you have Popperin potentially in the third round for Rude. At this point, I just think best of 5 Casper on clay the last 4-5 years at RG. I'm picking him to the quarters. At the same time,
he's been so good at RG that I'm like,
yeah,
it's even like too much a little. Like, where is that one loss in the first week or something like that? But I would still pick him too.
I would. But Popperin, but then at the same time, yeah, he plays Carlos in the semis, and he doesn't really have a chance.
Quarters even, yeah.
Oh, quarters, yeah, because he's 7th, so yeah, that would be quarters. So, but yeah, Rude and Paul in the 4th round probably is what we're looking at here.
Paul has more like obstacles along the way to the 4th round, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like Khachanov could beat Paul in the 3rd round.
Offner is in great form as well.
Yes, Offner is in great form. I watched him play a little bit, but I'm not sure if it's like super high ATP level tennis that he can sustain.
I didn't trust it in 24, but since he came back from these surgeries, he actually looks very real to me.
He does. I mean, he beat Khachanov already.
He did, yes, this week.
This week, yeah.
He made the 4th round at the French, which was like the easiest draw possible at the time.
He lost to Tsitsipas, right? Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, and he had Mackie also and Korda, I think, in the 2nd round, and they were both winless on clay that year. And then was maybe Nuno in the 3rd round, but I might be wrong on that. Definitely Mackie and Korda in the first 2.
How
Yeah,
about Muller and Paul in the 1st round? 2 guys on the just that's gonna be like backhand to backhand insane rallies. I didn't see that until now. All of a sudden, that's a popcorn match I want to watch.
Yeah, you're having that Altmaier Fritz moment.
Yeah.
For me,
this is the first time I'm seeing
you're
it.
having of this. Yeah. Sure, I think it's more likely still to be like good experience for Herbert than anything else. But I mean, I would love to see him just come out and crack 50 backhand winners and potentially even win. Is it likely? Probably not, but he's gotta have that first slam experience at some point.
Yeah, I mean, so I think Paul has more obstacles than Rude for sure, but Rude is more likely to get to the quarters. So at this point,
yeah, I mean, both of these kind of work in Casper's favor. Also, we were giving shout outs to retiring players. Albert Ramos Vignolas, 2016 quarterfinalist. Sorry that you got this draw, because there were a couple of qualifier versus qualifier spots, I believe. There were a couple of other ones that were good, like a qualifier is playing Walton, for example, I think. But nah, I mean, against Casper, it's not possible in this format.
Former quarterfinalist here, right? 2016. Beats Milos Raonic, loses to Stan Wawrinka. And then also had a match point against Carlos 3 years ago in the 2nd round.
Right. I forgot about that, yeah. I remember, I mean, the Raonic match is like yesterday, but the one against Carlos, no, that was 3 years ago. That's too soon. But yeah, sure, obviously, yeah, 2nd round.
So, and also this is probably the second time in the last like 4 years that Casper has been the one to retire somebody at RG because the Songa.
Joey, yeah.
Yeah. So feels fitting. He feels like the right guy to kind of retire people off. It's gonna be all nice and classy in the ceremony and stuff. So it's gonna put a nice touch to it all, I think.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm not sure though if this is actually his last event. I don't think it is. So it's just last RG, right?
Oh, okay, so is it like Garcia where she's just gonna play a little bit more and then
Yeah, I don't think he's
given.
given a time, but he just
Okay.
said like this season. So basically, we don't know. It might be his last event, but I think he's signed up for like some clay challengers or something like that later on. I don't know, but yeah, basically, there's no confirmation that this will be his last event. I think it would be pretty fitting right now, after he qualifies to end it like that. But yeah, we don't have that info now.
And then we get to the Alcaraz section, and right away we have Shelton and Sonego, which is a quarterfinal at the Australian Open. Is now first round here, so that's probably the popcorn match in the section for me, in terms of matches in this section first round that I want to watch. Obviously, also Zapiri and Alcaraz, who played in Umag in 2022.
Famous
Haven't played
Umag when
since.
Zappieri and Agamenone were in the semifinals.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I mean, didn't he like not drop a set in the qualies? I mean, I didn't watch any of the matches, but I
Yeah,
saw
he's
the scores.
24-1 in sets at Roland Garros qualifying. He's qualified 4 times in a row. And last 2 rounds, he also won a match in the main draw. But he was getting some pretty non-clay opponents. In 23, he played Manarino, and last year Bublik. Or the other way around. Yeah, I think Manarino 23, Bublik 24. Or actually the other way. I'm not sure. But he pushed Ruud a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically been injured almost all the time since last year's clay season. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, he just drew Alcaraz. That's the main problem.
Yeah, yeah. But actually, if we go past Zappieri, we also have Marozsan potentially in the second round. Which is that any kind of a danger for Carlos over best of 5?
I know Rome has to be mentioned, but no, I don't know. I guess I just kind of looking at this draw, I'm thinking whatever they throw Carlos's way, he's gonna handle it. But Marozsan peaks for a set, and maybe it gets interesting, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling too. Because honestly, what we saw in Rome was a much more buttoned up version of Carlos the last 3 rounds, and also, just all the challenges that he went through Monte Carlo, Barcelona, and Rome. He came through almost every time, and so that gives you more belief that he's like, okay, he's the guy to beat here at RG. He's the favorite.
And this is kind of what I mentioned at first, that like I was just saying I don't know this draw, I haven't analyzed it yet, but I don't really know what would have to happen for me to like massively change my opinion about Sinner or Alcaraz, because this is actually full of big hitters, right? He could play Zappieri, Marozsan,
Yeah.
Pecci, Pedicard, and then let's say Shelton in the fourth round. And that sounds pretty tough on paper, but on the other hand, yeah, I just don't really know who they would have to put in Alcaraz's section for me to say, no, I don't think he's making the final. I don't think he's, the favorite to win the title.
I wonder if it'll be Tarante instead of Petty Pericard. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Pericard didn't get to the third round.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just threw him out there because he's the most dangerous. Like, he's the guy who could do something to Carlos simply because he plays like no rhythm tennis. Yeah. But Bergs, Tirante, Jumhur, I don't think they're threats. So that's why I mentioned him. But obviously, it doesn't have to be Gio, not at all.
Yeah, and then the fourth round is very favorable as well against Shelton or Tsitsipas. Will we get the Shelton Tsitsipas match, or do you think Ben will lose to Sonego and Tsitsipas won't get there somehow?
I mean, Sonego is so unpredictable. I really don't know. Tsitsipas, second round looks good, but Echeverry, that's not that easy. Former quarter finalist, if we're talking about that.
Yeah, at the same time, kind of a rhythmic player who, if Tsitsipas is playing well, he should beat. But he's going to require some
they have a head-to-head, right? And I think Steph was pretty dominant, but
yeah, I think he destroyed him last year in Monte Carlo, like 1-0.
Yeah.
Only match I remember, but they might have met other times.
Maybe I'm just thinking about that one match, but yeah.
But yeah, Actually, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say this prediction that Sonego will beat Shelton.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it could happen, right? It's not a Super Bowl pick.
I mean, if you're just looking at his most recent performances, you'd say he might not win a set against Shelton.
I
But
know.
I mean, it's
Yes.
not like Shelton has been that good. And Sonego is, yeah. I mean, Australian Open quarterfinalist this year. But like, if you forget about that, it's been a very forgettable season as well. So I just have no clue.
Yeah. Basically, I feel pretty confident about Carlos. Yeah, getting
Yeah.
to the quarters and semis, and I mean honestly, even winning the title. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can't really tell you that, like, no, I think he's losing to somebody here. Obviously, Sinner will be a little sharper than in Rome, but
yeah,
best of five comes into play, and there's a lot of time for Carlos to like come up with stuff, potentially survive these onslaughts that Yannick pulls out. I mean, he's the favorite, and what we were talking about like a month ago, at first just lightly suggesting that Alcaraz might be a bigger favorite for a French than Świątek is. I mean, right now it's just straight up just 100% true, and then nobody really, disagrees with that anymore.
yeah. I think if they play in the final, we'll definitely see a better version of Sinner than we got in Rome. But at the same time, the margins are still with Carlos, and I still feel, especially after last year's semi, I still feel like pretty sure. Like, how can you not make Carlos the favorite on clay in this matchup right now? But at the same time, if one of them doesn't get to the final, who's more likely to lose are there? I would say
Probably
maybe
Carlos,
Sinner.
just because he's Carlos.
Yeah, I would say so. But then I think Sinner's draw is maybe a little more challenging, but
Yes.
it's hard to say, honestly. You could argue both.
It's possible that Alcaraz's is a little more challenging in the at first,
Yeah.
and then Yannick's is more challenging like fourth round quarters, right? That's kind of what quarters
Mm,
maybe not, but like third round, fourth round. That's maybe
yeah.
what I would say. Maybe even semis that might be more challenging for Yannick. So it kind of evens out for me.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and that's why I came back to like thinking about mentality and how consistent they are, and that's why I said maybe Carlos, but mm,
Mhm. If let's say Djokovic gets to the semis and he's not lost a lot of sets along the way, or he's looking really sharp, what chances does he have of beating Sinner?
none. I think. I mean, you're asking somebody who thinks that Djokovic can basically beat Sinner and even Alcaraz, despite what we saw in Australia, only really in like fast conditions when he's serving very well. Maybe especially Sinner. Let's say Sinner and a thinking Alcaraz.
Yeah. Well, we shall see what happens on the draws. I mean, I'm not sure if we'll have a midweek episode. I think we'll just have to see how it goes. Third, fourth round, what it's looking like. But it looks like Iga and Carlos will be playing on the same day most of the times throughout the event. So
That might
yeah, I
make
mean,
it a little more possible because always with these like Grand Slam draws, the problem is that like if we record an episode and one of them is playing tomorrow, that's just can't do much about it. Like it's not gonna be relevant for like even half a day maybe. So maybe that makes it a little more easy. But I mean, it will depend obviously on how they do as well.
yeah. So it'll depend on how they do, and then we'll definitely have it, of course, pretty soon after the tournament is
Oh
over.
yeah.
And yeah, until then, yeah, it's been good. We've been somewhat more regular, just based on doing the Rome recap and then this. So we got 2 episodes in 1 week again. So yeah, you guys know the drill by now. Where to follow us at Eagle Carlos Tennis. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, as that really helps quite a lot, and also help us get to 1,000 on Twitter. And yeah, keep leaving the comments on YouTube and also on Apple and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, this was another RG preview in the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Gonna be an exciting event. Last year, I think we were definitely going for these, two titles. It was the goal for the podcast, let's say. This time we can't be this sure. But either way, we do look into the future with optimism.
And with that, yeah, we'll see you guys later. Thanks.